Hello, so we're going to be talking about multiplication today. So the learning intentions, we need to be able to multiply a whole number or a decimal by a single digit, and that's what we're going to be focusing on in this video. We'll be looking at multiplying whole numbers and decimals by multiples of 10, 100 and 1000 in the next one, and then looking at long multiplication in the next video. Right, so just like when we're talking about addition and subtraction, there are multiple different ways of going about multiplying. Again, I've said this in the adding and subtracting videos, but it's important, first and foremost, that the method that you use is accurate. We need to be right in maths. You need to be able to be flexible though, because sometimes questions will be easier to do one way and sometimes they'll be easier to do in a different way. So it's important that you are able to see the different ways that you can do it. And lastly, just make sure that you are being efficient. You do not want to have 10 lanes of working when you only needed to do 2. Okay, so yeah, just make sure your method is efficient for you. So we've got 27 times 8. That is our first question. There are so many different ways of multiplying. There's the grid method, there is chimney sums, or just the column method. There's also splitting up your numbers, which I'll talk about in a second. Also, you can use the number stacks material that we have. So I assume I have talked to you about this in class by now, but these are our number stacks counters and stuff, which you, if you're my 2024 class, you did a great job of sticking on the stickers for. But yeah, if you ever are doing a multiplication sum or division sum or adding and subtracting, whatever, and you need to use the number stack stuff, or you just think it would help you visualize what you're doing a little bit better, please just go get them. That's why they're there. Okay, so if you're doing any sort of sum and you just think the number stack stuff would assist you, just go get them. Okay, that's why they're there. Okay, so 27 times 8. Now I'm going to start off doing the more sort of traditional method, which is the column method. So just like adding and subtracting, I am going to put my numbers like this. Okay, so like that. And then for multiplying, we simply just multiply these two numbers together and then the 8 with the 2 as well. So we're just multiplying both of these numbers by 8. Okay, so we've got 7 times 8, which is 56. Now again, the 6 appears, that's not the word I'm looking for. Belongs is the word I'm looking for. The 6 belongs in the ones column because the number 56, the 6 is a 1 and the 5 is a 10. So the 5 goes into the next column, just like addition and subtraction. And then 2 times 8 is 16. But we have this 5 to contend with as well. So we have 16 plus the 5, which is 21. So we put the 2 into the hundreds column and the 1 there. Okay, because we have to remember what we're actually doing here. We're not just doing 2 times 8, we're actually doing 20 times 8, because this 2 is in the tens column, so it represents 20. So 20 times 8 is actually 160. And then we're not just adding 5, this is in the tens column, we're actually adding 50. So 160 from here plus 50 is 210. So that's why the 2 goes in the hundreds column and the 1 goes in the tens column. Okay, so that is the more kind of traditional method, column method. I would make sure you get familiar with this method, but you know, it's not the only way of doing it. The other way of doing it, which to be honest, the column method kind of does this anyway, because the column method, what we're actually doing here is doing 8 times 7 and then 8 times 20. But you could kind of lay it out in a slightly different way. You could be like, okay, well, I'm doing 8 times 27. So what I could do is 8 times 20, or 20 times 8, same thing. Okay, so I could ask myself, well, what are 8 lots of 20? Again, you could do this in your head, you could use your number stacks, whatever, which you get 160 from. Then you could go, well, I've done 8 times 20, so now I'm going to do 8 times 7. Sorry, I've done this the other way. That's annoying. There we go. Which is 56. And then you could add these together. Either you could do it in your head, or you could set up a sum or whatever, but you would get 216, which is obviously the same answer that we got up here. Okay. So it's really up to you how you go about this. There, as I said, are multiple different ways you can do it. It's up to you to find the way that you prefer. So in the next one, we've got 345 times 5. We'll do the more traditional method first, which is the column method. So we've got 5 times 5 is 25. So again, the 5 represents a 1, so it goes in there. And then the 20 is in the tens column, so the 2 goes in there. Then we've got 5 times 4, which is 20. But we need to remember this 2 here, okay? So this represents 20, or this gives 20, sorry, but we have to add the 2 on. So we get 22. So that's what we have here. And then we've got 3 times 5, which is 15. Add the 2, which is 17. Okay. So that is what we can do there. You could split it up like we did earlier. So you could say, well, I've got 345. So I could do 300 times 5. Then I could do 40 times 5. And then I could do 5 times 5 and then add them all together. That would take you a little bit longer because we've obviously got the hundreds, then tens, then ones. But that is definitely a way that you could do it. Yeah, so that's that. Okay, so next one we are going to move on to multiplying with decimals. Okay. How we go about multiplying by decimals is really, really similar to how we go about multiplying whole numbers, okay? If you're using the column method, we just lay it out 3.4 times 9, just like how you would lay out 34 times 9, okay? The only difference here is there's a decimal point in it. And all we really need to do is line up our decimal point with a decimal point in the answer. That's all we're really worrying about here. Now, this is slightly beyond National 4, but I think it's important to at least mention. It won't come up in National 4, as I said, but what we're actually doing here, if you're multiplying by decimals, is you look at your question and you ask yourself, well, how many decimal places are in my question? 9 doesn't have any decimal places. It's a whole number. 3.4 has 1 decimal place. Okay, the 0.4 is a decimal place. So my question in total has 1 decimal place. So therefore my answer will have 1 decimal place. So I put my decimal point so that I have 1 decimal place in my answer. Okay, that's what we're really doing here. At National 5 level, you might get questions like this, for example, where in your question you have 2 decimal places because this has a decimal place and this has a decimal place. So your answer would actually have 2 decimal places, so you'd have to put your decimal place here, okay, so that there's space for 2. Okay, you don't need to worry about that, but I think it's important to note that because this method doesn't always work. Lining up your decimal points doesn't always work, but it does for this course. Anyway, rambled enough. So then we just go about this as if we were doing 34 times 9. There's no difference. So 4 times 9 is 36. So we put the 6 in the ones column, sorry, the tenths column, and the 3 in the ones column. Then we do 3 times 9, which is 27. Add the 3, 27 plus 3 is 30, sorry. So we put that in there. So our answer is 30.6. Okay. Now, there are other ways of doing this. You could do, 3 times 9 and then 0.4 times 9, if you wish. It's totally up to you. Okay, and the last example, we have 8.53 times 4. So 8.53 times 4. I have 2 decimal places in my question, so my answer will have 2 decimal places, so I just line up the decimal points. And then it's just as if I'm doing 853 times 4. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. 5 times 4 is 20, plus the 1 is 21. And 8 times 4 is 32, plus the 2 is 34. Okay, so that's how you go about this question. Now, a couple of things that I've seen people do in the past that gives them the wrong answer is, let's just go back to this stage, okay, where we do 5 times 4 is 20 plus the 1 is 21. Some people will put the 2 and the 1 round the wrong way. Our answer was 21, okay? So the 20 represents the number in the next place value, okay? So the 20 has to go here, and the 1 has to go in the column that you're working on, okay? So you should be able to read the number from left to right, 21, okay? Because 5 times 4 plus 1 is 21, okay? So make sure you're getting that the right way around. It's so easy just in the heat of the moment, especially if you're in an assessment or something like that, just to put them the wrong way around. But that reads 12, not 21. So just make sure that they are the right way around, okay? That's it really for multiplying with decimals and whole numbers. I didn't mention this when we were doing this question, probably should have. As I mentioned when we were doing the column method here, this is really just the same as 34.9. Sorry, geez, I need to learn how to speak. This is the same as 34 times 9, but we just have a decimal point in. So if you were wanting to use the method of kind of splitting the numbers up and doing like 30 times 9, and then 4 times 9, you could do that, because as I said, it's kind of the same as 34 times 9. So you could do this, get your answer, okay, which is 36. So you could get this, you could get 270 and then 36 and then add them together to get this. But then as long as you keep in your mind, in your head, that, well, my actual question had 1 decimal place, so therefore my answer must have 1 decimal place. You can do it this way, okay? As long as you remember the decimal place thing, because, that would make your answer very, very wrong. We aren't specifically doing this right now, but I think what we've just discussed there actually lends itself to just mention this. The thing that I want to mention is being able to estimate what your answer is going to be. I think that's such an important skill in maths, to not just blindly follow methods and just accept whatever answer you get out. You need to use common sense to make sure that you are right, okay? So if you were doing this question, 3.4 times 9, and you decided to use this method to do it, you're like, okay, Miss said 3.4 times 9 is actually kind of the same as 34 times 9, so I could split the 34 up into 34, 270, 36, add them together, and you end up with 306. And you're like, cool, done. Make sure You then look at the question and make sure your answer makes sense, okay? 3.4. Well, you could ask yourself, well, what's 3 times 9? 3 times 9 is 27. So you know 3.4 times 9 has to kind of be around the number 27. You've got the answer 306. 306 is nowhere close to 27. So are you correct? No, you've forgotten to put the decimal point. Is 30.6 close to 27? Yes. Okay, so just taking that extra little step just to make sure that your answer is in the right ballpark is so important. Okay, right, that is us for multiplying by single digits.